Okay, good evening, everybody. Hello and welcome to the March Community Forum, Wimbledon Community Forum. Good to see so many faces and many familiar faces. And thank you very much, everybody, for being here. If we're lucky, this might be the last time that we do this by way of Zoom, but let's see if we're going to be lucky. And just as I say in most of these meetings, it is your meeting. It's a meeting for you as residents to contribute your ideas and your thoughts, but also to raise your concerns and raise any issues that you want with your elected representatives. So we are responsible to you. Because we are on Zoom tonight, I won't ask each councillor to introduce themselves, but in no particular order. I can see Councillor Fairclough and Councillor Ormerod and Councillor Williams and Councillor Benbow and Councillor Kohler. And I think that's all I can see. I'm sorry if I've left anybody out. So that covers. No, I think I said Councillor Ormerod, but there we are. I've given you a second. I've given you a second shout out now. So that means that is Dundonald Ward to the right of the Broadway as you go down, Trinity Ward to the left of the Broadway, Hillside just before you hit the Broadway. So I think most wards are represented. And we also this evening have our Assembly member with us, Leonie Cooper. So Leonie, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us. And of course, Leonie represents the whole of the borough at the London Assembly. So good evening, everybody, and you're very welcome. So the first item is a briefing on the census, and we're joined this evening by Matthew Hopkins, who's going to talk to us about that. So Matthew, thank you for coming along, and over to you.
Hi there, thank you for having me. Chris, are you able to share the slides, please? Thank you. So the first thing you might be thinking is I've already done the census and wasn't the census day on Sunday. Sunday was indeed census day, but there are still a fair few people who haven't done the census, and there still is time to do it. So I'm just going to give a fairly brief run through these slides because I'm sure lots of you have already done it on the day. But I'll just give a quick overview. And then I'll just take any questions and I'll just describe what we're trying to do to reach the people who have not yet filled it in. Okay, so next slide, please. So as you're probably familiar, it's a census is a once in a decade snapshot of society, which gives us the most detailed information we hold. Next slide, please. So yeah, the importance of the census is, of course, that it decides where billions of pounds of funding are allocated, and charities can use census data for funding applications. Other departments can use census data as well as local authorities. And of course, in order to see where the data is, where the funding is needed, the data needs to be as accurate as possible. So that's where my role comes in as community engagement. Next slide, please. So that's what I'm here today to do, really, is just to talk to you about it. As I say, lots of people have already filled in the census on the day, but it's more the sort of harder to reach groups, people who might not have a good internet connection, might not have an internet connection, might have a language barrier, lots of other sort of barriers that could be to completion. And of course, you'll know your communities and your neighbours very well. So, so that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. Next slide, please. So just quickly run through the headline facts. Of course, Census Day was Sunday, but as I say, there's still plenty of time to complete, but please do so soon if you haven't already. It's online first, so most of you probably will have done it online. However, you might be aware that you can also request a paper copy, and then there would be a few individuals who would have been sent a paper copy as a default. And yeah, as far as the engagement and outreach program goes, we've just basically been focusing most of the effort on underrepresented and hard to reach groups. Lots of people will have just seen it on TV, there's all the press and filled it in. But as I say, if there's a particular barrier that someone has to actually completing it online, whether it's language or internet, whatever it is, they're the kind of people that we're looking to help. And yeah, finally, there's obviously lots of help available on the Census website itself, as well as on the telephone, and also hopefully there will be some face-to-face support available, although that's not yet due to COVID regulations. Next slide, please. So yeah, as far as some of the sort of the barriers or the worries that people might have when it comes to actually giving their data and filling in the census, I just wanted to quickly cover off some data protection side of things. So first of all, the census data is, once you fill it in, it's anonymized and then it's kept under lock and key for 100 years. So and then it's only released for things like ancestry.com and people searching their family trees and all that sort of thing. So if you're interested in family trees, ancestry, any of that stuff, the 1921 census is going to be available. It's actually going to be available next year now. It's been slightly delayed due to COVID, but if you're looking at that sort of stuff, that's coming up pretty soon. Next slide, please. So yeah, the second point here is really important. Because it's anonymized, that means that census data can't be used to influence benefit claims, residency applications, immigration status, anything like that. We're seeing a few sort of stories of people thinking they shouldn't fill it in because then the government will have their data and they might use it for something, but it's not the case. As I've just mentioned on the previous slide, it's completely anonymized and kept that way for 100 years. So that's not to worry about. Next slide, please. Gloss over this one quite quickly because, of course, we're quite far through this now. But yeah, ultimately, we've been doing engagement work since the end of last year, actually, working with different community groups within the borough. Then, of course, you've seen some of the census stuff on TV, in the press, on radio since mid-February. And you would have received, of course, your letter with the code on as well, hopefully, which means you've hopefully done it. Excuse me. And then obviously after Census Day, you might have seen some people go around in their their census high-vis with a clipboard, politely chasing people up if they haven't done it yet. Excuse me. So yeah, there's from Tuesday, actually, people will be going around and just giving a gentle reminder. If people haven't completed yet, it will all be socially distanced and in line with COVID regulations. Of course, that's very much front of mind at the moment. And yeah, just for certain areas, there might be reminder letters which go out as well, but the majority of the work is going to be done in just a sort of a nice face-to-face chat. Obviously not quite on the doorstep, but a good 2 meters plus away. And yeah, the census coverage survey will start once the main census is complete, and that's just to sort of fill in the gaps and plug the gaps of any sort of shortfall that we have in the data. Next slide, please. Yeah, I'll just quickly skip through the next, if you're able to skip through next, just to sort of show you the look and feel of anything which does come from the census. Just so you know, it's a legitimate thing that comes through the doorstep. And then here's just an overview, these 2 slides of the different support available. You can get help on census.gov.uk, which is obviously on the website. Also, there's a telephone helpline, which is towards the end of this presentation. The helpline is listed, and also there's a local helpline which is being run from the Vestry Hall in Mitcham. So at the moment, that's only it's only telephone assistance, but there's a view to opening for face-to-face help for people who might not have an internet connection at home. They can go to the Vestry Hall and fill in the census there. But that's something we're just sort of looking at. So for now, it's only telephone help only as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, and as I mentioned, there's lots of different support available. One of them is the language line. So there's a translation service available. Next slide, please, which is in 49 different languages, at least 49. I think there's been a few more added since then. And we've kind of worked with Merton Council to identify from previous demographic information the key population groups, which is the main sort of groups which we want to target towards. So some of these languages, for instance, the Eastern European community, we've been providing lots of communication support in different East European languages, for instance. So yeah, finally, as I say, a lot of you will have probably already filled it in, but you might also be aware of people within the community who might not have the internet or might just need a bit of support. So it's just being mindful, with neighbours or friends, that you could help by, say, directing them to the telephone line, just letting them know that there is the option to order a paper copy if someone is online, or they can do it over the phone by telephone capture, and that there's also language support available. And just anything you do to just sort of promote the message that the information is actually safe and secure, and it's not going to impact anyone's claims to anything, and your data is not going to be harvested, essentially, would be really helpful in case anyone's having those kind of. Next slide, please. And finally, yeah, I've got my contact details here and the main Census website. I'll share these via Chris, as well as all of the different telephone, so the main national helpline, as well as the local one, which is run from the vestry hall. But if anyone's got any ideas about engaging particular hard to reach areas or groups within the community, within Wimbledon or there around it, do feel free to drop me a line. That'd be great. And yeah, conscious of time, so I'll happily take any questions if anyone has any at this point. I can't see with my Zoom view, I can't see any questions that come in.
So Matthew, thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you for all you've told us, and in particular assuring us of the safety and integrity of the information that's been filled in. Is there anybody who has a question or a comment?
Just a quick one, Chair, if I may, Councillor Simpson. Just to congratulate the obvious national statistics on this exercise. I know it's rather more intrusive than perhaps previous census has been, but I have to say it's been conducted very thoroughly, and I was very, very pleasantly surprised on Sunday at about 10:30 when I decided I'd better fill this thing in, and lo and behold, your system did not crash. So it was to me, that was a real bonus in not having to go in twice. But I mean, just to say, very well done so far. Thank you.
Really good to hear. Yeah, I was as relieved as you were.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that.
Any other? I can't see on my screen. I think I've got everybody here, but I can't see any other questions or comments. If you are,
Nicholas has got his hand up.
Sorry, Chris.
Nicholas Waring has got his hand up.
Okay, so yes, Nicholas, Mr. Waring, you go first, and then Leonie, you're very welcome to come in next.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Yep. Can everyone hear me?
We can, yes.
Okay. Sorry, I was late to the meeting. Okay, I was late to the meeting. I only got notice of it a few, half an hour ago. I can send any other business. Can I raise an item of any other business, please? I'd like to keep the traffic management.
So, Mr. Waring, we're not there yet. We're just traffic. At the moment. You're very welcome to raise that later on. At the moment, we're just finishing item 1.
I know we're not there yet. I know we're not there yet. That I'm notifying you that I'd like to raise it at AOB. That's all.
That's fine. Thank you. And absolutely, please do. Anything, Leonie, you indicated to speak?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. That's very kind. I just wondered if Matthew could say something a little bit more about, I mean, I've heard that some of the information is going to be accessible a lot more quickly because we're all uploading everything online rather than the sort of manual paper sheets that the census has always been before. And I wondered what impact would that have for Merton in terms of being able to have, I mean, obviously not individual access to data sets, but I just wondered how that might impact in terms of the borough, you know, what kind of access would become available and how much more quickly would it be there? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I'm not sure that first of all, I'm not sure that it is actually going to be any quicker, I'm afraid. Although obviously the capture's quicker online, there are still lots of paper forms that need to be scanned in and all of that side of things, and then the whole data analysis piece. So although it's not too long to wait, it's the first data set, the headline information, if you like, is going to be available 12 months after Census Day. And that will be across the board, so not just for Merton, but for all of the boroughs. And then the full data set will be 24 months after, so 2 years. And that is going to be it's going to be sort of more malleable than it has been previously, and it will be available online, so you can kind of put in the parameters that you'd like to see for whatever purpose it is that you're using the data, and then download the data with the right sort of headings and showing the right kind of things, rather than just, you know, having to get the full set, if you like. So yeah, hopefully that online tool is going to make it a bit more user friendly and helpful.
Okay, thank you, Leonie. Thank you, Matthew. Matthew, we're also being asked, and I'll just read it out. Why isn't there a box for Crown servants and other trade reps serving abroad who would be unaccounted for in the census?
So this is people who are living abroad for a prolonged period of time, is this? So
I guess it's a reference specifically perhaps to diplomats and people serving in embassies or trade missions abroad, and whether they were involved in whether they had a chance to participate in the census. I guess that's what the question is asking.
Yeah, so I don't have the exact, thanks for clarifying, sorry, I don't have the exact numbers to hand of exactly how many months it is that all the different permutations are that someone needs to be abroad for, and whether they still need to fill it in. But yes, Crown servants, other trade reps aren't counted any differently to anyone else who might be abroad. So for instance, if someone's only abroad for a short period of time, but they still have an address in the UK, in England, then they would still need to fill it in. However, if they were abroad, obviously on a more long-term basis, you know, over 12 months, for instance, then they wouldn't need to fill it in. The armed forces was actually brought in. That's to look at veterans rather than active armed forces. The question on veterans, and that's just to see where the veterans are located. So the government knows there's the Armed Forces Covenant, so just to help sort of planning services around them.
Okay, and Matthew, one quick follow-up to that, and then we perhaps need to begin to move on. But the follow-up was, if postings are routinely for 2 to 4 years, then some people would just simply be unaccounted for completely. Is the follow-up to your point? Is that right? And if so, is the provision for that being thought of?
Yeah, I mean, if someone's abroad for that, you know, quite a long period of time, they wouldn't be counted. In sort of conversely, someone who is working in the UK from another country who is here for a period of time would be counted. So it's just to get a snapshot of the UK on the 21st of March, essentially.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Unless there are any other pressing questions, can we say thank you to Matthew and move on? Okay, Matthew, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thank you for your briefing. And I always say this to everybody, you're very welcome to join, but you may well want to enjoy your evening. But you're very welcome to remain here if you'd like to. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
On to the next item is climate change, and we're joined by Katie Halter. Sorry for that. And Katie, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for joining us, and over to you.
Thank you. Chris, have you got the slides?
Yep.
Very much. So I'm Katie Halter. I'm Merton Council's Climate Change Officer, or one of two. This is just a short update to let you know what's been happening over the past sort of 6 months to a year, and also a little look ahead about what's coming up. So, and then if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Next slide, please. So the main thing we've been doing over the past year is setting a strong strategic framework to deliver the net zero targets that were set as part of the declaration of a climate emergency. And this is in the form of 2 documents. The first is Merton's Climate Strategy and Action Plan, and that's on the website, and we encourage you to read it. It should be quite user-friendly. And that really sets around 60 actions and the strategic approach that we're looking to take over the course of the target period. And then the second document, excuse me, is the Climate Delivery Plan. And this is more of an internal council document. It's designed to identify what we're looking to do within that year, so in 2021, and it's focused on the council. So what the council is looking to do to decarbonise its own estate and operations, and also how it's looking to support others to do that over the wider borough. It also has some indicators where we're looking to track progress. So this delivery plan will be updated on an annual basis and reported into Cabinet so that we can track progress against the targets. Next slide, please, Chris. So I won't go through this in detail, but if you looked at the Merton's Climate Strategy and Action Plan, this is the summary page, and it sets out the series of actions that some of which are things that the council have committed to do, and some of it is what we're suggesting individuals and businesses and other organisations would need to do in order to meet the net zero targets. And it, as you can see, it focuses on 3 main transitions. So that's greening the economy, it's decarbonising buildings and energy systems, and also decarbonising transport. So I guess the main point of this is really that that we all have a role to play in all of these parts in order to meet those net zero targets. Next slide, please. So while we weren't just busy strategizing over the last year, we were also taking actions which continued from the previous climate strategy. And I'm just going to highlight a few here, but there are others. So when we're thinking about the council's own estates, a few things we did last year was a shift to 100% renewable electricity. So that means that all the electricity that we use is now green electricity. We also pretty much completed a street light replacement program where we're replacing the old bulbs with much more efficient ones, and that's resulted in a really substantial energy saving for the council, and also the corresponding reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. And the third thing we did was to apply for major grant funding to decarbonise a number of the children's centres and community buildings over the course of next year. So that money's now come in, and we're busy preparing for that quite deep, quite a deep set of measures that means at the end of it, those buildings will be very low carbon. Next slide, please. So not only were we looking at our own estate, we're also taking actions to support other people in the borough to reduce emissions as well. So again, I'm just giving you some examples here. So the Neighbourhood Fund, which is issued by Merton Council every year, and it's usually about £1 million. This year, around £400,000 was allocated to projects which reduce emissions. So the focus of the funding was slightly amended to make sure that climate projects were supported. So that was a really good success. And we also applied for some further funding to boost the Warmer Homes project, which helps to put energy efficiency measures into homes who are vulnerable to fuel poverty. And that was a consortium bid we did with the GLA. We also drafted some pretty far-reaching local plan policies, particularly the climate change policies which relate to energy. And that consultation has now closed, and we're looking now to taking the next steps to get it approved and published. And lastly, we also supported some behaviour change campaigns. So this lovely picture that I've got on my slide is the logo for the Green GPs campaign, which is looking to set up climate champions in GP practices. Next slide, please. So coming up, there are just a couple of things I wanted to make you aware of, really. The first is that we are encouraging you to sign up to the climate updates, and those are very short email updates when we've got some news, so things that you might want to join or look at. We send them out about once a month, so hopefully not too onerous on everyone, but hopefully it's got some really useful information that you might be interested in if you wanted to take some action on climate change. The second item is that we're encouraging people to write into the council to tell us about what climate change pledges they've made, and we put some new information every month on the website linked to a topic. So what we'd like you to do is go on that page and read about the topic, and if you want to make a pledge, we'd love to hear about what you're doing. The third item is the big pedal. So this, the transport community lead for our climate action group is looking to encourage schools to sign up to the big pedal. So this is a campaign that has been running for about 11 years, and it's encouraging children to cycle to school between the 19th and the 30th of April. And if you sign up, you can send in photos, and there are prizes, and so it's a good way to encourage children to cycle to school. And last year, they, given the numbers of people that are signing up across the UK, they saved around 4.7 million car journeys over that period. So it was a really huge success, and we're hoping as many schools in Merton can take part as possible. And then the last item here is the Climate Action Group, which I'm going to tell you a bit more about now. So next slide, please. So the Climate Action Group was launched in in January, and the purpose of it is to encourage and support residents who want to put in place carbon reduction projects. So it's not about the council telling people how to reduce emissions. We're there to support what the community would like to do in terms of carbon reduction. And it works on a very simple principle. If you have an idea or you want to contribute to somebody else's project, you come along to a meeting and you build a carbon reduction project. So that's it's a very simple premise. It's anybody can come, anybody's welcome. So if you are interested, it would be really great to see you. Next slide, please. So if you want to get in touch with the people who are organising it, the way that it's structured is around themes. So if you see the small boxes in the third column, you see that we're themed. There's a green economy theme, a buildings and energy theme, a transport theme, and a greening Merton theme. And those reflect the priorities of the climate strategy. But they're led by community volunteers who are giving up their time to help people build carbon reduction projects. So, and each of them have an email address, and so that they can help people get together and do projects. And myself and Dominique provide the sort of administrative support for that, and help if needed to get people in touch with the council if they need council's permission, for example. And at the moment, I'm also the buildings and energy lead. So if you're interested in buildings and energy, I will see you there. Next slide, please. So just to let you know when the next set of meetings are. So we've got Kelly Gunnell will be leading the Greening Merton meeting next week. So if you're interested in planting or depaving, she's got some really great ideas that she's looking for volunteers for. I'll be leading the buildings and energy theme the following month, and then the month after is transport. But they are already active, so if you were interested in the big pedal, please get in touch with them. They've got a meeting next week to discuss how they're going to encourage schools to do that. So yeah, that's it really. Just feel free to join us, and yeah, hope to see you at the next meeting.
Katie, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for running through everything, and in particular the opportunity for email updates, the opportunity to make a pledge, and the cycling to school. That's really fantastic. Easier if we can have any questions or comments put into the chat, and then I can read them out. It's probably the easiest way to do it. And Anthony Fairclough has put up, helpfully put up a link to Merton's climate emergency update. So Katie, thank you for that. Any questions or comments? Could they go into the group chat, and then I can read them out? I'm sorry, hopefully this is the last meeting we'll have to do like this. Well, Katie, don't be insulted, because you probably have one of the most important jobs in the world at the moment, but I don't think we've got any questions or comments at the moment. So I will say thank you to you, and I'll stop if something comes through. But thank you so much for giving us the presentation this evening, for all the important information you have run through. And as I've said, you probably have one of the most important jobs in the world at the moment, you and other people doing similar work. So thank you for all you do. And as I said to Matthew, you're very welcome to stay and join us, but for the rest of the evening. But if you need to make a move, that's fine. So thank you very much, Katie. So now we're moving on to our COVID update. So the Director of Public Health, I think for the last 2 meetings, has given us quite a detailed update. This evening, we're joined by Kaz Abuka. Thank you, Kaz, for joining us. You're very welcome. And this evening, slightly different angle, which is looking at vaccinations and how we're going on that. So Kaz, thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm also joined by my colleague Fiona White, who is one of our nurse consultants.
So apologies for that, Fiona. You're very welcome as well. Thank you for joining us.
So I thought what I'd do is I'd start off by just giving a quick update on who I am and what my team has been doing in Merton, and then hand over to Fiona, who will go through our slides, and then we'll both of us take any questions or comments back to colleagues. So beginning with just an overview of the vaccination program. So I think we can say that that's going very well within Merton. So far, we have over 66,000 residents who've received at least 1 dose of the vaccine. And at the moment, we're currently offering the vaccine to people who are 50 and over, residents and staff in care homes, people who are extremely clinically vulnerable, and health and care staff. So we'll soon be offering the vaccine to younger people, and we've been reaching out with the support of the local authority to find out more about the attitudes of younger people. In the meantime, we're asking folks to either phone 119 or visit the National Booking Service in order to get themselves an appointment to receive a vaccine. With the engagement of local people, so my role within the CCG is really about making sure that people can be involved in how we plan and buy health and care, but also getting people accurate information about our services, and that's recently included about the vaccination program. So the team in Merton have delivered approximately 36 conversations with people in the community to answer any questions they've had, and we've reached about 900 or so Merton residents, particularly from communities that face higher barriers to accessing our vaccination program. Okay, I'll stop there, and Fiona, I will hand over to you to take folks through our slides.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me this evening. I am a nurse consultant in primary care. I also help deliver the COVID vaccination clinics and have been critical in putting on the pop-up clinics to those communities that can't access the service. So next slide, please. So the aim today is to support our community around the understanding of COVID and the vaccination program, the COVID-19 vaccination program. Next slide, please. So as you've already alluded, Kaz, we are doing incredibly well with delivering the program to date. We are now immunising those 50 and above. We have managed also to get to the hard to reach groups. So we've immunised 52% of the asylum seekers and are doing some webinars to try and see if we can increase the uptake. We've targeted the travelling community. We have accessed the homeless, and tomorrow I'm going to immunise another group of homeless at the Salvation Army in Wimbledon, and also going to the women's refuge to help them access the vaccine. We're doing our second large immunisation clinic at the mosque in Morden, and we've done Collierswood Mosque and Collierswood Community Centre. We've also done the Shrew Temple, and we have also done other areas of East Merton, like churches and community centres in Pollard's Hill. Next slide, please. So, why use a vaccine? Well, we know that vaccines are crucial and part of our defense against infection and disease. We need to get enough people vaccinated. It's a disease that is spread, and we need to vaccinate as many people as possible in order to protect our family and friends and our community. Vaccines prevent people from getting serious infectious diseases. It's safer for our immune system so that we can fight the infection. The vaccination program is not the only thing that helps. We do have to wear masks, we do have to wash our hands, and we do have to maintain social distancing, especially during this time when we haven't vaccinated the majority of the population. So it's still very important that we carry on doing some of the infection prevention measures to stop the spread. Next slide, please. So what vaccines are we currently using and what's available? So we have two main centres, one that is at the Nelson on Kingston Road and one that's at the Wilson in Mitcham. And we're using both vaccines in both sites. So there's the Pfizer, BioNTech, and the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, and they're both available. And both vaccines have passed rigorous tests on safety and efficacy, and they are safe and effective. We haven't had one serious incident with regard to the vaccine to date. People do get localized side effects, but they're easy to manage. We also have other vaccines that are coming online, like Moderna and Novavax. They're still going through the MHRA for approval, but they are being used in other countries abroad. So the current vaccines, we have got a good supply for the time being, but we know that there might be supply issues, and we are making sure that our highest at risk are being immunized with their second vaccine. So we immunized in the first group all the care homes. I've gone back to the first care home and we've immunized those, and by Easter weekend we're hoping to start our program again, immunizing those in the care homes with their second jabs. Next slide, please. So you have 2 injections in your arm, although if people have had breast cancer and we can't use their arms because of the risk of lymphedema, we can use the upper leg or upper thigh. So you do need to have the first jab, and you need to come back after 12 weeks to have your second jab. We are trying to make sure that people are targeted between the 10th and 12th week so they don't breach and get their second immunizations. Your GP will contact you with the appointment link, and then you can book your appointment. And there are also national booking programs that have gone online locally for those in the lower age groups. They say that after 3 weeks of completing your vaccine, you will be much safer. Usually after the first vaccine, after 10 days, you have between 80 and 90% protection. And after the second vaccine, a week after, you might get 90 to 95% protection. Next slide, please. So who will get the COVID-19 vaccine and when? So currently we're right down to group 9. So these are being targeted. Those in the highest at-risk group from the age of 16 and above with learning disabilities, we're making reasonable adjustments for. Those with severe mental health problems, those with drug and alcohol problems, we're facilitating and making sure that they can access the program. We have done webinars to attract those hard to reach groups, and we still have got people that have got issues with vaccine that we are encouraging to attend and support making the right decision to access the vaccine. Next slide, please. So where will the COVID-19 vaccine be administered? So as I've already alluded to, we've got the Wilson and the Nelson in West Wimbledon. We have lots of other locations in acute trusts that are also providing the service. We are doing community pop-ups as and when required, and anybody who would like us to put on a pop-up, I go along and do an infection control assessment, and if we can get enough patients to go to that site, we're more than happy to immunise them. GP practices are also doing all their patients that are housebound, or the community district nurses are being commissioned to do some of that work. So the majority of the patients now will start to get their second vaccines in the next few weeks. Next slide, please. So if you've got any questions, I'm very happy to answer them. So over to you.
So Fiona and Kaz, thank you both very much for that, and a lot of information there, and obviously a hot topic at the moment, and thank you for what you have taken us through. So I've got two, I'll ask the questions in two because some are coming through now. So the first question from Paul Kohler is, it's just disappeared on me, but he's asking whether the 85% that you're reporting on the three cohorts over the age of 70, is that a natural ceiling? Are you expecting that the rest are people who won't choose to take the vaccine, or do you expect that to continue to rise, that 85%? And then the second question, I'll do it in twos if it's okay with you both. The second question is, are there any statistics available? This is from Anthony Fairclough. Are there any statistics available on the immunisation of local care home staff? So can we just leave with those two for the moment?
Kaz, do you want to answer?
Yeah, happy to take this one, Fiona. So I don't think we're at a natural ceiling. So I think I'd have less information about what the future will look like naturally, but certainly the indication is that we're getting to, I think, the stage where we're going to need to do more engagements to make sure that people have all the information they need about the vaccination program. I think also it may be that these are also folks who are waiting and seeing as well. And so people can change their minds, and we'll continue to have, I think, our primary care colleagues reaching out to folks as we go along. So we have an ambitious target. I think it's something like at least 92%. So we will continue to push at our engagements, both through the engagement team and through primary care, to see if we can shift those numbers up. Fiona, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that you do have to bear in mind that there will be some patients that are in the middle of cancer treatment or immunotherapy that will not be able to access the vaccine, and some people who are terminal who have chosen to dissent or feel that they can't have it at this point in time. So we're never going to get to 100%. There are some patients who are still changing their minds and not quite sure about it, and I'm sure with time they might go ahead and have the vaccine. You're never going to be 100%, as I said. With regard to care homes, every week we get asked if we can go and immunise more care home staff. So we are going back. I think one care home we went back 4 times because the staff changed their minds. We went in and very few wanted the vaccine, but when they reported to their friends they didn't have any side effects, we had to go back the next day and then the next day. And so we were very happy to do that. I've gone back subsequently to other care homes who have changed their minds and immunised them, and so the GP practices who are working with their care homes as well. So it is increasing. And we will be going back to the care homes for their second vaccines soon for the residents, and there is already interest for care home staff to get their first jab. So I think it's work in progress.
Okay, thank you very much. And two more questions if we're doing them in batches of two. So Suzanne Groscott asks if there's any information or statistics on residents going out of the borough in order to have their vaccination. And a second question is, once somebody has had both injections, how long is it expected that the vaccine will be effective for before a booster is needed?
Okay, so the first one, if you work outside the borough, if you were a care home worker, then you will get your vaccination in that borough, maybe. So you can access the vaccine where you work. So if I was working at Guy's Hospital, I would be offered the vaccine at Guy's Hospital, and that would be outside of borough, so that you're always going to get that anomaly. And people do cross borough boundaries. The only thing to bear in mind is if you get your vaccine, say at Guy's, you have to go back to Guy's to get your second vaccine. The other issue is if patients are inpatients in hospital and get one vaccine, they might come out to the community, and we will have to follow the Green Book guidance about what second vaccine they get. Now, I can understand the confusion about immunity, but with each vaccine, the research that comes out gives you different statistics about when your protection is afforded to you. So with some vaccines, I think they've generalized the 3 weeks to cover both vaccines. So with some vaccines, it takes a week after the first dose, or 10 days after the first dose, before they did the research study to find out when you had the immunity. The most important thing is that you do get immunity after a couple of weeks of getting the vaccination. So that's really important. But it doesn't mean to say you can go disco dancing. It means you have to carry on washing your hands, maintaining social distance, and the infection control precautions. You can still get COVID even though you've been vaccinated. You can still spread it. They think there's about 78% reduction if you've had the vaccination to spreading it to someone else, and that's really important. And both vaccines have similar data. So you're always going to get that 20% that you could pass it on to someone else. And there we have got the anomalies of variants, and we haven't got enough data to be able to discuss about the variants that are on board. So the most important thing is get vaccinated, maintain the infection control precautions, and try and make our community safe.
Okay, thank you. The next question is also from Hayley Ormrod, as was the previous one, and that is, what plans are there at the moment for children and trials and preparations for children to have vaccinations in the future? And also the next question on the list, which I think, Fiona, I think you've just answered it actually in your previous one, is one resident was a little confused as to the timing after the first injection in which immunity kicks in. But I think you've confirmed that just now. But if you could just answer the question about children, that would be great.
Okay, so there are some research trials going on with the AstraZeneca for those children above the age of 13, and watch this space. We have to wait for the results to come out, and then they'll make a decision as to whether they're going to roll that out across the UK. So I haven't heard when that's going to happen. All I've heard is that it's happening.
Okay, thank you. And another one from Hayley, which is could you just clarify and confirm when? So it says here, residents are asking when they should be going for the second round of vaccinations. So Fiona, I know there is some confusion around this. So are you able just to sort of give us as a succinct answer as you can?
Yes. So really, you have to wait until your GP contacts you for the second dose. It's usually any time from week 10 after your first dose up to 12 weeks. And it just depends when the vaccine is available, because it takes a week or so for somebody to book an appointment sometimes. So we send out texts, and then we send out texts again to those individuals. There's not everybody has got a smartphone, so we are having to phone people up, but we're trying to make sure that the majority of people get their vaccination before the 12th week. So just wait, don't hassle your GP, wait till you get the text link so you can book your appointment.
Okay, so Fiona, thank you for that. Hayley, being very kind ward colleague of mine, is writing furiously for everybody to see that I've actually asked you the wrong question. What I was meant to ask you was not about the second dose, which is exactly what I asked you. So thank you for answering that. What I should have said to you is the second round. So I think this is a reference to how long will the current set of inoculations, once you've had the first and the second dosage, how long are we expecting that will last before we're all required to go back for a booster?
Okay, we don't really know how long we keep immunity. We've got some idea that it could last 6 months to a year, a bit like the flu jab. They are working on a booster dose. We will get more details about that in November this year. And that's as far as I can tell you, really. So we're working on the flu vaccine as well for later on this year. When more details come out, then we will know. We know that people who get COVID only keep antibodies for 5 or 6 months. What we don't know, because the program hasn't been running long enough, is we don't know how long you keep your immunity post-vaccine, because we haven't been around long enough to know what that data is. So, because it's such a new vaccine, and it will be dependent on your age, your immune system, how you deal with that vaccine. So there are lots of unanswered questions. So we will have more information as the research comes out.
Okay, thank you very much. And questions still coming through. I would like to begin to wind up. So if people could, if particularly residents, particularly those of us who are not representatives, elected representatives, if residents in particular can just type any final comments or questions. So Fiona, final round, we are getting comments through just saying thank you very much to you, to Kaz, and to everybody who's working in the field of work you're in for and I'm quoting, running such an amazing service. So just share those comments with you. But question from Sarah, if you get one of the vaccinations in the first round, whether that's the AZ or the Pfizer, will you get the same one in your second dose? So if you have Pfizer first time, will you automatically have Pfizer second time?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. So I will, if I see any more questions from residents coming through, I will break off. But can I say, Fiona and Kaz, thank you both very much for being with us tonight. Like Katie in the previous segment, you're working very hard. Oh, I think is somebody trying to ask a question? You're working incredibly hard in a really important area and critical to all of us. So thank you so much for making the time to come and brief us this evening and to answer the questions. So thank you both. So we now move on to the final section. We're not, as you know, we're not, when we are on Zoom, able to do our traditional soapbox. As soon as we're back together, I promise you we will definitely do it, and we'll leave a lot of time for it. What we have done this evening is made space for pre-notified items. So as Mr. Waring only saw the meeting was on quite late, I'm more than happy for him to speak to us about traffic, I think he said. But first, we have Suzanne Groscott. So Suzanne, you're very welcome. Thank you. And over to you.
Okay, thank you. So I would I'm here to talk about Plan Wimbledon. So I'm hoping that everybody who's on the call already has heard in some fashion about Plan Wimbledon. So we have been running as a community group for just over a year now. and we have our mission is to shape a better, more sustainable Wimbledon to enhance the lives of future generations of residents, businesses, workers, and visitors. So it's really everybody who has some stake in Wimbledon. And we have over 300 members now, which includes residents associations and some business associations. So the reach is actually a lot bigger than the 300 members. So we have applied to the council in order to become what's known as a neighbourhood forum. And I know the word forum, everybody's a forum, but this forum, the only remit that the forum will have will be to write a neighbourhood plan. And a neighbourhood plan, once adopted, and it has to go through the same rigours as the local plan, it has to go to external review, and it has to then go to a referendum of everybody who is able to vote within the area it's selected. So we have applied to the council, and we're now running through the process, and the cabinet on Monday has approved for us to run a 6-week consultation. So I don't know whether I could just have the next slide. So this is a draft of hopefully a poster that we will be putting out. So the consultation is due to start on the 12th of April, and everybody, we're encouraging, go and have a look to find out about Plan Wimbledon for those who haven't heard about us before. So we have a website, planwimbledon.org. And when the consultation comes out, the consultation will be, is this the right area? So as you can see, the area we've picked on the map is very large. So there's about 40,000 residents besides all the businesses, of which there are thousands of businesses within Wimbledon. But we believe that it's an area that everybody does feel as if they are part of Wimbledon. And that so everybody will be able to have a say at the moment to say, is neighbourhood planning something that you want to do? Do I feel part of Wimbledon? Is this the right area? And are we happy for Plan Wimbledon to be recognised by Merton Council as the forum, or the vehicle that will actually then write a neighbourhood plan? And when we say write a neighbourhood plan, ultimately, everyone who is a member of the forum or lives in Wimbledon and part of the area has the chance to contribute to write that plan. So it's, we did get questions like, whether it's them and us. Well, it's not. We are, we're all going to be Plan Wimbledon if you're in that area. So I just encourage you to watch out that, you will start seeing advertising, posters, and when the consultation comes out, please do vote and give us your comments. So thank you.
So Suzanne, thank you very much for being here and for running through it, and thank you for your initiative as well. As regular attenders at the forum know, this is my 8th year chairing the forum, and it's because I have a real passion for residents being involved in government and residents being involved in their future, and this is a wonderful opportunity to do that. So Suzanne, it starts with a challenging but friendly question for you first, which is can you tell us the legal weight that this plan will have, and what the practical difference of having it would be?
Okay, yeah, so absolutely. I mean, yes, it will have legal weight. So, the fact that we have to be designated by Merton Council, once it's a forum, it's the only vehicle, and it's given the mandate for 5 years in order to be able to write a plan. And the plan has to go through, the same rigors as the local plan, and goes to referendum. But absolutely, once that plan is in place, it does form part of the statutory planning documentation. So, I mean, the plan will have to be in line with the kind of like national planning guidelines. It will have to be in line with the London plan and the local plan. But it can give more detail. It can talk about materials, design, aesthetics, building types, location. So it can go into a lot more detail than the local plan can. And as long as, within the local plan, there are 2 types of policies. There are strategic policies and non-strategic policies. And the neighbourhood plan, I mean, can change any non-strategic policies, but it has to be in line with the strategic policies. So, because it's Sarah who asked the question, absolutely, it will have very, a huge amount of legal weight. Once this plan is adopted, I mean, anybody who buys or sells a property in Wimbledon will be informed that there is a neighbourhood plan there. Sorry, I'm looking at the questions myself. So sorry, too soon. Are you? Sorry, what was the question?
So don't worry about the first bit. Just read from "Are you saying?"
Okay, so chat. Are you saying that Plan Wimbledon as a designated forum will need to be consulted by the council and developers when the planning application is made? Yes, they will have to be. So, I mean, all planning applications will go to Plan Wimbledon. It will become another like stakeholder that the council goes to ask their opinion about planning applications.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Suzanne. Any other questions or comments, please, into the chat if there are. Suzanne, thank you. Thank you for coming along. Thank you for all your hard work on this, and we wish you success with it.
That's okay. And I just want to say, actually, because Regina Denton is also on this is on this call, so she is also part of the steering committee. So
great.
Yeah, so we have got governance behind us as well.
Great. So Regina, thank you very much. So Mr. Waring, Nicholas Waring, over to you for your you wanted to speak about traffic, I believe.
Thank you. I've just unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
We can. Yes, thank you. We can.
Thank you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I don't want to. I appreciate we've been here for a while, so I don't want to take up too much time. The purpose of speaking this evening is simply to keep or raise the item of traffic in Wimbledon, and with no apology, traffic in particular in Hayden Park Road North area. We've just had an LTN turned down for understand. Well, we know the issues, so that we don't wish to pour over that. But I think as a neighbourhood, we're looking for encouragement from the council that they are considering that it's still high on the agenda. That is traffic pollution of all kinds, and it's still on the agenda for the council to work up a whatever it's called, I guess generically a traffic management plan, traffic management action plan of some sort. I must say I was much encouraged by the climate change action plan, and in the spirit of action plans, I'm sure there's a methodology attached to all this. So I'd ask the council to add transport to that. I do see in the presentation there's a transport aspect to it. A chap named Mahmood, I noticed, is in that, and I think we've corresponded ourselves recently on Next Door, for instance. So, as I said, I don't wish to bang on too much. I just wish to raise the subject on this opportunity and hope that Merton has not lost the idea of traffic management. The recent LTN proposal has clearly bit the dust, but locally as a group, we're looking for alternatives and we want to keep it high on the agenda. So that's my main point, that's my message. That's my plea to Merton, and if anyone's interested, since I'm here, I'm happy to answer any questions myself. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. Three parts to the answer. The first is that absolutely traffic and traffic pollution are really important, and we have had presentations to this forum within the last year or 2 years on this subject. But Mr. Waring, two things in particular. The first is that Chris, who supports us, he keeps a note of what's been said, and then those points are raised with relevant officers. So the points you've made this evening, we will make sure that they go to the officers who are managing this area so that they have received your feedback directly. That's number one. And number two is that we are now only a year away from the next local election. So I would imagine you and others will be speaking to candidates and asking candidates what their view is on this subject, and that may well decide how you vote. But again, that is part of what this forum's about and part of what local democracy is about, that you now have the opportunity to wait and see who the candidates are in your ward and then to question them over what their view is. So hopefully that's two pieces of feedback that I hope are helpful. Ladies and gentlemen, I think again we
thank you for that.
Go ahead.
What happened?
I was just going to say thank you for that. The second point, of course, council elections, we'll all do our duty in that regard, I'm sure. But for me, the particular point is that you've made about my points being made to officers. I'm encouraged by that, and I look forward to a response. Indeed, I'd be happy, or I'd hope that through this forum, officers would contact me and the group, the Hayden Park Road North community. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
So, Mr. Waring, I'm also conscious of time, but there is, and unfortunately some people have left the meeting, but there is an opportunity for this forum to ask for something to be raised in council, and it would have to be raised. We would have to move a motion in council. So it's the first time tonight that has risen as a possibility. You may want to leave it till the next meeting, and that could be a good idea. But if you wanted to propose a motion, I would recommend something fairly general, that you're looking for a report on a particular subject or for the cabinet to consider something. I would then put that motion to the next council meeting, and if it's adopted by the council, and they usually are, that would then move on to the next stage. You're very welcome to do that tonight. I've already said what a fan I am of direct democracy and people being involved in government. But you may, now that you know this, you may say, well, you wait to the next meeting so you can give some thought as to what the motion might be. But it's in your hands.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm certainly happy to give it more thought, but with other neighbours. I'm not here as particularly, well, at all, as a representative or with a mandate. I'm speaking as a local from my own on my own behalf. But since you mention it, we aren't having an LTN locally because the cabinet member, so I understand, took the decision to listen to what was considered to be a majority in opposition. And therefore, I guess, to try and summarise, I would like the cabinet, I would like to put the question to the cabinet member who rejected the local LTN for Hayden Park Road North to give us some feedback as to long-term considerations of alternatives in order to reduce traffic pollution in all its forms. And in all its forms, I mean the sort of things flagged up by Living Streets, which is the harmful impact of transport on all aspects of our lives. Pollution, noise, congestion, etc., etc. Everyone's well aware of the various aspects. So, a response, please, from the Cabinet member as to what happens next, what alternatives Merton are taking up to combat traffic pollution, and indeed contribute that aspect to the general climate action initiatives.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Waring, thank you for that. So I think for tonight, what I'm going to do is take your question. I will take that to the Cabinet member, and I'll then reply to you. Would you mind putting into the private group chat? I'm sure you don't want to share your email with everybody, but would you mind putting your email address or your telephone number, if you prefer, into the private chat with just me, so that I've got that. I will then ask that question formally through the channels that we have at the council for members to do so. And then when I have the answer, I will come back to you. And then in the meantime, if you want to talk to your neighbours, this is what the forum is meant to be about. If you want to talk to your neighbours and you and they would like to attend the next meeting and propose a motion, I would recommend that you keep the motion quite short, and ones that ask for further consideration or investigation of a matter are usually the ones that work the best. But I'll leave that with you. Thank you for raising it. And everybody else, thank you so much for your attendance this evening. There is a chance this is the last time that we'll have to meet like this. I hope so. I hope that everybody stays safe and has a good rest of your evening, and look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. Thank you very much, everybody, and good night.
Okay, thank you. Good night.